Hello, folks. Martin Hood here again. It's been some time since I did a podcast. Today, we're going to talk about training and the two potential crises that we have that are looming on the immediate horizon. There's been some chit-chat in social media about what's happening. Here are the facts. You know where to get the facts. In 2013, the Quality Council for Trades and Occupations delegated to the Professional Firearm Trainers Council the right to quality assure qualification 50480, firearm training. Quality assure, remember that, because quality assurance means that the training itself is independently checked and verified to be in accordance with the qualification. No fly-by-night rubbish. The reason why that happened in 2013 was because SACETA and its predecessor, POSLIC CETA, could not quality assure, could not and still cannot quality assure, and there was massive fraudulent training certificates that were issued by unscrupulous training providers or just simply created because there was no way to check that they were authentic. The PFTC authenticates the training, to put it in another way. Fast forward to 2024, when 50480 expired, our then Minister of Education, Higher Education, his sharpness blade, omitted to extend 50480, and that resulted in me, on behalf of the PFTC, going to court urgently and getting a court order extending for 50480, pending certain things happening. Then what happened is the minister, apparently, no one's sure, I can't find it, extended the qualification for 2 years, which means it expires at the end of June 2026, which is just around the corner. It expires at the end of June 2026. And yet again, we have a problem where it hasn't been extended because the government entities that are responsible for education and training are too busy fighting about who gets the grant money that is paid via us, taxpayers, to their coffers, that they forget to do their job. Not unusual in this day and age. Anyway, then the Minister of Education decided in 2021, in terms of Government Gazette number 45401, to publish a policy. And part of that policy was that you could replace a qualification with what is called a skills program. Sounds very good. In other words, instead of having to go through an entire qualification, you can do a short course and you can become qualified, for example, to apply for a competency certificate for a firearm. Sounds great, except one little sting in the tail. And that is, in terms of the policy, and I'm going to read the Government Gazette, because this is very important. In terms of the policy, the minimum duration of a skills program is 2 weeks. So in other words, if you wanted to go and get training in order to possess a firearm for private use, 2 weeks training. Now, fortunately, those skills programs haven't been developed yet, but they're in process. And my understanding is that SACETA wants to implement skills programs as opposed to a qualification. The problem with the skills program, people, the problem, as has rightfully been pointed out in social media, is that a skills program does not need to be quality assured, which means that any accredited training provider who's got buddies with the relevant sectoral education training authority can become accredited and provide the training, and they can just issue a certificate. So you might not even need to arrive at the training, as has happened, for example, with the Private Security Industry Regulatory Authority, who's lost many millions of rands because they pay for training that was never given. So it's not unusual in this country for training to be given, but the student doesn't actually do the training. And that is the risk that has been highlighted in recent social media. And that is that if we replace the 50480 qualification process with the skills program. There will not be quality assurance. So in other words, someone like the PFTC won't take the training materials and check it and grade it and verify it. Then there is no incentive to do the training. You can just take the money and issue the certificate. And life is made even easier, by the way, if you get a grant from SACITA to give the training as well. So you get a double bonus. You get given money by government, and then you get money from the private sector, and you don't do any training. That is the risk. That is what organizations such as the PFTC are trying to avoid. They're trying to stop it. So we have two problems. The first is that the training may be replaced by much longer training that is not quality assured. That is the public safety issue. That is the risk to public safety, that people can get a certificate without training, and then they can go and apply for a competency certificate. And I want to emphasize to non-firearm owners, that is not what the industry wants. The industry wants proper quality assured training. The second risk that we face is that yet again, government has failed to do its job and has failed to extend the qualification, and we're now facing a gap where there is no firearm training after the 30th of June. Watch this space.